Hello, welcome to our channel. Thank you for tuning in. I trust you'll gain benefit from listening to the Dhamma. Lord Buddha even teaches it's possible to become liberated just hearing the Dhamma. And there are a number of stories in the Pali Canon of people who in fact did hear even a short phrase, a sentence or two, a basic concept of the Buddhist teachings and gain stream entry with their deep and profound understanding of the teaching. We shouldn't expect that, certainly not from this talk, but we should appreciate that these words, these Dhamma teachings are very, very powerful instruments to our liberation. They are the seeds of our good karma, and they, by law, must bear fruit. So thank you for tuning in, and I will proceed now with the second part of page 48. On 48 at the top, we talked about tanha, that was craving, and the different ways that we crave. Upadana, once we crave, we want to keep things that we like, we want to hold on to them, and things that we don't like, we want to get rid of. So we're constantly clinging, not just to items that we own, not ownership of things, but the belief system, our opinions, our rights, our rituals are also forms that clinging takes and can cause a great deal of trouble. I'm thinking of people who argue and come to blows about something that happened in a sporting event that is not world shaking, but their attachment to their opinion causes them to be violent and possibly to be injured. And then the third step, we just did tanha and upadana on the previous page, and today we're on number 10. Remember, we're going through something called dependent origination. These are 12 steps that occur in order for us to end up being a human being. And number 10 is becoming. So now we've reached the place where it's possible to take birth as a being of some kind. These first 9 are potentialities or they're forms that our karma takes that precedes our physical birth. We could argue that the concept of clinging doesn't mean that we're clinging, but first, it has to be a concept which originates with the idea that I'm a person. And then karmically, if we've been born in the past, we can be certain that all various forms of clinging are the seeds of our current birth and will express as karmic experiences at some point. So now we're at bhavana, we're becoming. Now it's getting serious. Let's see. 3 levels of becoming are sensual, form, and formless. These are states of being that develop first in the mind and can then be experienced as internal worlds and or as worlds on the external level. So there's a saying in Buddhism, mind matters most. And everything that we know, every experience that we have begins in the mind. we think of events occurring in the world, and the world then comes in contact with us, of some event when we're driving to work, or some event at work, an event in our marriage or our partnerships, etc. But whatever the event is, the only way you can know that there is an event happening is through consciousness. So whatever the nature of the event might be, your consciousness has to register that event, and the moment it does, it starts applying its opinion, that it's a nice event, a not nice event, or a neutral event, and the degree to which that opinion is important, the more emotion we're going to have attached to that event. And as I've been saying repeatedly, the value we place on anything that is outside the body determines the quality of our consciousness, which by definition is a description of who we are in that moment. So this bhavana, this becoming, has its origins in the mind. No mind, no birth. So it has its origins there, and those origins may have originated in part from past life experiences. No need to even consider that. All we know for sure is there is consciousness now. We call it me, and it is essential for us to have a concept of me. Then it says, sensuous becoming is attachment to body sensations. I mentioned before that this earth in this solar system is a planet of a great sensuality. So far, what we know about the other planets is that they're not very hospitable. And this planet is gorgeous beyond our imagination. And we have 5 senses that we can indulge in enjoying sensual experiences through these 5 senses. And that indulgence, of course, results in body sensations. So sensuous becoming is attachment to body sensations. We just want to be. We just would like to continue to be, but with the hope that we'll continue to be in a place that's nice, that meets our expectations. Then, so that's a physical form. There's going to be more than just a mind involved. Then there's fine material becoming, or rupa jhana, and immaterial becoming as a rupa jhana. So these are references to the 8 jhana, the places the mind can go within itself. And once the mind has developed the ability to quiet the body and to quiet this monkey mind to the point that it can engage or see revealed states of consciousness that were not available, that are not available, until we have some mastery over the meditation practice that we call samatha. So I'm not going to comment about rupa jhana or arupa jhana. I don't have enough experience there to speak with authority. The number 11 is jati, or birth. So there's this process. We could think of it as the gestation period of being born. You know, I think it's fruit flies are born within 8 hours. I had a friend who was doing research on fruit flies, and she had to get up at night every 8 hours to check the new brood of fruit flies. And others, elephants, I believe the gestation period is up to 2 years. And our gestation period as humans is quite long compared to other animals. At any rate, this becoming is that period of time, not just when the body is forming, but this mind has to reach a certain level of formation for it to be ready to marry or to match with a physical form. So that's this state of becoming. And once that state has matured, then there's the possibility of birth, jati or birth. To be born means the birth of the I concept. Now we're back to number 1 of the 10 of these 12 dependent originations. Number 1 was avidya. So if you want to know where the universe came from for yourself, in the Buddhist tradition, it came from the idea that there can be such a thing as a person. And then we've gone through now 10 steps of how that idea matures. I call it a gestation period. So the idea matures. It requires certain conditions, earth, air, water, fire, etc., the ability to be conscious, to make contact with the world through the 6 senses, etc., etc. But what is born, we call a baby, but actually what is born is the concept that there's an I. And from the moment we're born, our parents and relatives, our community, etc., tells us that we're a person. And we celebrate being a person on our birthday every year, and we celebrate accomplishments that we have throughout life as a person, whether it's something simple like getting a good grade on an exam, or getting married, or a promotion, getting elected, etc. It's always about the I concept. I did that. This happened to me. This is who I am. This is referred to as a mind moment, a tiny fraction of a second which is arising and passing continuously. So we call it a nanosecond. It's such a short amount of time that our consciousness is unable to catch it. But because it happens continuously, arising and passing simultaneously. If it arises, it passes away. In this case, this mind moment of I, simultaneously. And it happens so fast and so continuously, we don't see any break in consciousness. So from the moment we become self-aware, whenever that is, in the early days of our birth or until the present moment, it looks like a long line of consciousness from the moment of birth, we'll use that, till the present moment. Technically, it's unimaginable numbers of birth and death called a mind moment. This birth is not the gestation period of a physical being. With birth, all forms of sorrow, distress, lamentation, pain, and despair arise. Now we've gone past the potential of being. Now we are ready to take form, and this form we're going to identify with our entire life. So is everyone else, especially our parents and family and the people who we most love. And the moment that phenomena arises as a form in the universe, then we can begin to suffer. So it says feelings, craving, clinging equals birth. And number 12, without explanation, is Charamarana. I never pronounce these words correctly, so forgive me for that. Aging, illness, and death. I don't think there's any comment that needs to be made about that. If we are born by a law of nature, not because God is angry or anyone is judging us, but just an objective law of nature like gravity. Gravity is present every moment. If we fall down and injure ourselves, it's not because we're being punished by gravity. When we lose our balance, the law of gravity results in our falling. If we fall from a very high place, it's likely that we won't survive. So aging, illness, and death are this law that if something takes birth, it will age. In the case of a mind moment, it will age for a nanosecond. But otherwise, aging can be a few minutes, weeks, months, years, depending on the nature of the thing. Fruit flies, as I mentioned, are born, live, and die in an 8-hour period. Then they get sick and they die. My mother lived to be 105. She was not sick. She did not take any medications for an illness. Her body just finally couldn't keep functioning. So there, on the death certificate, they just wrote old age. But typically, the physicians or the morticians, whoever do this, want a cause of death. So they can write that in the blank space on the death certificate. At any rate, all things that take birth live for some time and pass away. And this teaching is almost non-existent in Western culture, so that when something passes away, we experience this horrific shock. We just can't believe, quote, this is happening to me. It could be a pet that passes away. It could be someone in our family, a neighbor, a co-worker. We don't grieve when things pass away, people, animals, etc., that we don't know. We say, oh, that's too bad when we hear about it, some earthquake victims or some natural disasters, war victims. We're sorry that they suffered and died, but we don't really grieve because we don't know them. But boy, when it happens to somebody we know, then the emotional turmoil and the forms that our suffering takes can be very intense. And people hold on to those suffering emotions and sensations for the rest of their life because they don't know a way to let go. So here is a kind of synopsis, just a brief portion of the synopsis of dependent origination. We're at the top of page 49 now. An example of dependent origination. I'm not going to try to speak the Pali language. It says kilesas that form the essence of rebirth. So avidya, that was the first step. And then out of avidya arose sankharas. What's sankharas? Are kilesas that form the essence, just the essence of rebirth, with fundamental ignorance, which is avidya, as condition. So this does not arise without this condition called fundamental ignorance. The fundamental ignorance that says, I'm a person. And as a result of that formation, there occur mental formations. Those are called sankharas. That was step 2 on this 12-step program. So avidya produces sankharas. Sankharas result in vijnana. Vijnana was a kind of consciousness, some level of consciousness, with formations as condition. Formations, that means something came into existence. There was cognizance. So this definition of vijnana is the capacity to cognize. Those are the first 3 steps of this 12-step program. And so, step by step, all 11, some additions of this list 11 and others list 12, that's not worth arguing about or to have opinions about. Steps of dependent origination are reached at warp speed. Do not think of this that takes minutes, hours, months, years, centuries, long periods of, what do we call that? The universe coming into being. This whole process is on the nanosecond level. So that's why it's so hard to catch it, to wake up to it. It's just happening at light speed every moment we are alive. Every single moment. It's not like our birth date, this date and this time and this hospital in this state or this country, etc. No, that is not what we're talking about here. We're talking about how the mind arises and passes away with great rapidity, and the content of the mind, or the formations that constitute the mind, have been just now described to us in this 12-step program. So that should do it for today. Thank you if you've made it to the end. I appreciate it. If you think others might be blessed, please consider subscribing or liking so we can promote the Dhamma far and wide. May you be blessed in your Dhamma practice. Thank you.